What if I told you there's a way to swim in lava with your mount and survive? Or jump from any height without taking damage? In today's guide, I'm breaking down everything you need to know about mounts in the Ashlands Null Zone. Whether you're trying to survive the extreme heat or looking to build the ultimate tank mount, I've got you covered. Hey survivors! Today we're tackling one of the most challenging areas in Icarus, the Ashlands Null Zone. This volcanic nightmare will test both you and your mount with its extreme heat, dangerous wildlife, and that brutal, extremely arid effect that increases water consumption by 500%. But don't worry, I'm going to show you exactly how to build the perfect mount for this environment. Before we jump in, make sure to hit that subscribe button for part 2, where we'll cover the Arctic Null Zone. Also, quick note, all mounts start at level 0 and cap at level 50, giving you 50 talent points to work with. Keep in mind that leveling gets much slower after level 25, so plan your builds carefully. Chapter 1. Animal Talents. Let's kick things off with the most critical part of any mount build, talents. I'm going to break this down into 2 sections. Essential talents that every mount needs, and then the unique talents for each mount type. First up, let's talk about 3 talents you absolutely need on every mount, no exceptions. These are what I call the holy trinity of mount talents. Perfect pasturage is your first must-have. You want all 4 ranks in this. At max rank, it gives you 2 massive benefits: a 20% boost to all food effect durations, and it unlocks grazing behavior. This grazing feature is a game changer. You can set your mount to automatically eat grass or carcasses to maintain their hunger levels. Think of it as autopilot for your mount's survival. Next up is large stomach. 3 ranks here and you'll get a 15% boost to all your fruit and vegetable modifiers, plus, and this is huge, an extra stomach slot. That means 3 buffs running simultaneously instead of 2. When we get to the food combinations later, you'll see why this is so powerful. Finally, we have natural endurance. 4 ranks here gives you a 20% stamina boost. Now, here's a pro tip. While this talent is important, max it out last. Focus on your unique mount talents first, then come back to this when you have spare points. Let's talk about your mount options, starting with our speed demon, the Moa. Now, I know what you're thinking, aren't Moas too fragile for the Ashlands? Well, with the right talent build, these birds can be surprisingly effective. Moas are your scouts and speed specialists, and they have some unique talents that make them really interesting. First up is V formation. And trust me, this is cooler than it sounds. At rank 3, you're not just getting 7% less stamina consumption while sprinting. You're also becoming a walking speed boost for your whole team. That's right, any players or tames near you get a 10% movement speed buff. Think of it as being the team's personal racing flag. Now, planeswalkers where things get spicy for the Ashlands, while the 15% desert movement speed won't work here. Remember, Ashlands is a volcanic biome, not a desert. You do get that sweet 10% heat resistance. Every bit of heat resistance counts in the Ashlands, and this talent helps your Moa stay alive longer. But here's my favorite Moa talent, From the Ashes. Not only do you get 7% more health, which helps offset the Moa's naturally low HP. But check this out. When your Moa dies, it respawns as a juvenile nearby. Yes, you heard that right. Your Moa basically becomes a phoenix. While you'll need to retame it, this is incredible insurance for those risky Ashlands runs. Moving on to our tank option, the Buffalo. If Moas are the sports cars of Icarus, Buffalos are the armored trucks. These absolute units excel at defense and hauling, and their talents reflect this. Heavy payload is your first priority if you're planning to haul resources. At rank 3, you get 20% more movement speed while pulling a cart. Trust me, when you're loaded down with exotic materials, every bit of speed matters. Thump Thump isn't just a cute name, it's a defensive powerhouse. At rank 3, you get an 80% chance to inflict blunt trauma, which reduces enemy melee damage by 25%. Think of it as giving your Buffalo a built-in boxing glove. But here's where Buffalos really shine in the Ashlands: fever control and flaming defiance. Fever control is probably your most valuable talent here. At rank 3, you get an aura that gives everyone around you 15% heat resistance and 15% hyperthermia resistance. Stack this with Flaming Defiance, which adds another 40% fire resistance and 10% heat resistance. And suddenly, your buffalo is laughing at the Ashlands heat. Don't forget about Thick Hide and Tough as Leather, each giving you 10 physical resistance at rank 3. That's 20 total physical resistance just from talents. Remember this number. It'll be important when we talk about gear combinations later. Last but definitely not least, let's talk about our middle ground option, the zebra. Now, I should mention that zebras are part of the Pets Bundle DLC, available through the Zebra Rescue mission on the Olympus map. You'll need to save 5 wild zebras to unlock them as mounts, but they're worth the effort. Think of zebras as the Swiss Army knife of mounts. They've got the speed to keep up with Moas and the survivability of buffaloes, though they can't match either in their specialty. What makes them special is their talent combination. They get access to fever control, just like buffaloes, giving you that precious heat resistance aura. Plus, they get both physical resistance talents, Thick Hide and Tough as Leather. This makes them surprisingly tanky while maintaining good mobility. Quick note about redbacks, while they're not tameable yet, they've been mentioned in patch notes. Since they're naturally from the volcanic biome, they might be a perfect fit for the Ashlands when they're released. Keep an eye out for these shelled beauties in future updates. Remember, talent choices are just one part of the equation. In the next chapter, we'll talk about how to supplement these talents with the right animal food to create some truly unstoppable builds. But before we move on, which mount are you planning to take into the Ashlands? Drop a comment below. All right, survivors, now that we've got our talents sorted, let's break down every type of animal food you can craft at your ranching station. Remember that basic stomach has 2 slots for buffs, and with the large stomach talent, you can get a 3rd slot. Let's dive into each option. First up is your basic animal feed, crafted from wheat and seeds. Don't let the basic fool you. This stuff is powerful. You're looking at plus 125 maximum stamina, 50% faster stamina regeneration, and a nice little 5% resistance to both heat and cold. Next is Omni Feed, and this is fascinating because it's actually a great way to recycle unwanted food. Just dump your spoiled meat, plants, or any food you don't want into an electronic feed trough, and it converts into Omni Feed. What does it do? It gives you 25% better effectiveness for other food buffs and 25% better health and stamina regeneration. For environmental protection, we've got 2 key feeds. Desert Animal Feed, made from squash and seeds, provides 15% heat resistance, reduces water consumption by 30%, and gives 15% movement speed in desert biomes. Its cousin, Volcanic Animal Feed, crafted from potatoes and seeds, is built specifically for volcanic regions with 50% fire resistance, another 50% when in lava, and 15% heat resistance. When it comes to movement-focused feeds, you've got Endurance and Sprinters. Endurance Feed, made from corn, is all about efficiency. It reduces stamina consumption by 75%, but comes with a 25% sprint speed penalty. On the flip side, Sprinter's Feed, made from carrots, gives you 20% faster sprint speed, but increases stamina usage by 75%. For those tricky terrain situations, there's Mountaineering Feed made from mushrooms. It reduces jumping stamina cost by 50% and provides 50% falling resistance. Need more survivability? Grab some Survival Feed made from soybeans. This gives you a hefty plus 175 maximum health and doubles your health regeneration rate. Finally, there's Arctic Feed, crafted from pumpkins and seeds. It's designed for cold environments with 15% movement speed in Arctic biomes, 30% reduced food consumption, and 15% cold resistance. But we'll dive deeper into that in our Arctic Null Zone guide in Part 2. Each of these feeds has their own unique purpose, and in Chapter 4, I'll show you some incredible combinations that can make your mount nearly unstoppable in the Ashlands. But first, let's talk about what saddle you should be using with these feeds. Now let's talk about what you're actually going to sit on while riding these magnificent beasts, and trust me, your choice of saddle can make a huge difference in the Ashlands. Let's start with what everyone has access to in the base game. You've got 5 basic options. Basic riding saddle, your starter option. Arctic riding saddle, for those cold adventures. Desert riding saddle, built for the heat. Bovine pack harness, more storage for buffaloes without a movement penalty, and unrideable. Wooden cart, for when you need to haul serious resources. But here's where things get interesting. If you've got the Creature Comforts DLC, you unlock 8 additional saddles that can seriously up your mount game. Let me break these down for you because each one has its own specialty. First up is the Bear Hide saddle. This beauty gives you 5% movement speed along with 2 cargo inventory slots and 1 heavy cargo slot. It's like having a speed boost and a backpack all in one. The Deluxe Leather saddle is all about storage. 3 cargo inventory slots and 1 heavy cargo slot. Make this your go-to for resource runs when you don't need any special bonuses. Now, if you're worried about poison, you've got 2 great options. Both the Crocskin and Sandworm saddles give you a 10% chance to resist poison, plus the standard 2 cargo slots and 1 heavy slot. They're identical in stats, so pick whichever one matches your style. For the Ashlands specifically, you'll want to pay attention to the Desert Tracker saddle. That 10% heat resistance can be a lifesaver, and you still get the cargo slots to boot. Its opposite number is the Arctic Explorer saddle with its 10% cold resistance, but save that one for part 2 of our guide. Speed demons will love the racing saddle. Like the Bear Hide, it gives you that sweet 5% movement speed boost plus the standard cargo slots. And finally, we've got what I consider the tank's best friend, the Armored saddle. That 5 physical resistance might not sound like much, but when we get to our tips and tricks section, I'll show you how this plays into some seriously powerful combinations. Chapter 4. Tips and tricks. All right, survivors, this is where everything comes together. The chapter that's going to turn you into a Mount Master. I've saved the best for last, and I'm about to show you some combinations that are absolutely broken. Let's start with the crazy stuff. Did you know you can literally swim in lava with your mount? No joke. Here's how to build an unstoppable lava swimming buffalo. Max out that Flaming Defiance talent for 40% fire resistance. Add Volcanic Feed for another 50% fire resistance, top it off with Omni Feed to boost those effects. And here's the kicker. If you're wearing Tier 4 Obsidian armor with the low burn module, you can swim in lava right alongside your buffalo. That's right, you and your mount taking a nice lava bath together. But wait, there's more. Want to turn your buffalo into an unkillable tank? Here's how. Stack both physical resistance talents, tough as leather and thick hide. Equip the armored saddle from the Creature Comforts DLC. Wear the biome backpack for its +5 physical resistance aura. Boom. You've just hit 70% physical resistance. Add Survival Feed and Omni Feed, and you can push your buffalo's health to a whopping 5,000 points. Throw in Endurance Feed as your 3rd buff, and you've got infinite stamina too. Looking for a heat-resistant speedster? The Zebra's got you covered. Use the Fever Control talent for that heat resistance aura. Equip the Desert Tracker Saddle Stack Desert and Volcanic feeds. Your Zebra will laugh at the Ashlands heat while maintaining great mobility. Now let me show you the fastest way to level your mounts because nobody wants to spend days grinding levels. I call this the Vapor Condenser XP farm. Build a raised building over a vapor condenser. Bring all your mounts inside. Pop these experience boosters. Hard mode open world, plus 25%. Warm and cozy buff from a wood burner, plus 10% experience. Pet all your animals for the happy buff. Here's why this works so well. I tested it with 2 mounts. An unpetted MOA at level 0 gained 17,212 experience. A petted buffalo at the same starting point earned 18,894 XP. That's a massive difference just from the happy buff alone. And for you speed demons out there, let me introduce you to the Runner MOA build. Stack speed talents, add Omni Feed, Sprinter's Feed, and regular animal feed equip the racing saddle, install 2 pheromone modules. This build is so fast you can cross the entire grasslands biome in about 1 minute and 24 seconds real time. One last pro tip that most players miss. You can achieve 99% fall damage resistance by combining fall resistance talents, Omni Feed, Mountaineering Feed. That means you can jump from literally any height and survive. No more taking the long way down. And there you have it, survivors. These combinations will help you not just survive, but dominate the Ashlands Null Zone. If you found this guide helpful, smash that like button and don't forget to subscribe for part 2, where we'll tackle the Arctic Null Zone. Drop a comment below telling me which build you're going to try first. Until next time, stay alive out there.